Hello everyone, my name is Pat, the founder of Center Niche. It's my honor to get invited to Rasei Fort studio in Dubai. So
Wow.
Mr. Fort, thank you.
Thank you, pleasure's all mine. Thank you for joining us.
So I've got a few questions for you today. Rasei Fort as a brand was founded back in 2019 in Australia. And can you tell us more about how you started the brand and why you create those fragrances for the brands?
Sure. So initially I started with, as you know, the Fort and Manlé brand.
Yep.
Where I was making perfumes in Australia, in Melbourne. After some time, once the business started to grow, I found that I didn't really foresee it. So when I started to blend perfumes, I had one dream and goal was to try and get them in a boutique in Melbourne, maybe one or two. That would suffice. I'd be really happy. It would be like a sense of accomplishment for me and a great achievement. So when I started, I didn't really foresee that the business was going to grow to what it's become. And so slowly, in a short period of time, the business grew and we ended up in multiple stores. So in this time, I found myself having to make large amounts of perfume on my own. So this became something that was more like a task rather than a passion.
When you're working on the Fort and Manlé brand?
Yeah, that's right. So when I was working on the Fort and Manlé, so it became because I really enjoyed blending and making my own compositions and perfumes. And I loved the whole experimental trial and error of blending perfumes. So when I was doing this, I was really enjoying it and seeing people's reactions and family and friends. They really loved my perfumes and they're always giving me words of encouragement and telling me, oh, this is really good, you should start your own brand or whatever. But once I did that, I found myself, okay, so we ended up in a few stores. As you know, the Art and Olfaction Awards was a big stepping stone with Fatih Sultan Mehmed being a finalist. So it sort of ended up in a lot of boutiques worldwide. And so I found myself having to make large amounts, large volumes of the same perfume. And it became more like just trying to keep up with the demand at the time. I stood back for a minute and said, you know what, I'm not really enjoying this because I started as something that I was passionate about, and then slowly it grew into something that I was repeating the same formulas but in large volumes and trying to bottle everything, label everything and package everything. I found myself in a situation where I'm not able to do what I really enjoyed and loved doing, which was creating perfumes.
Right.
So then I thought, what if while I'm running the Fort and Manlé brand, try to dabble with some other perfumes and experiments on the side. So I didn't have that much time, but I gave it a shot, and the first perfume that I made was a memory of my grandfather, which was Koloynia. Koloynia, yeah. Koloynia means cologne in Turkish. And so that was a bit of a successful release. I knew that concept didn't really suit the Fort and Manlé aesthetic. Because at the time we had the black bottles with the metallic plaques and whatnot. I'm sure some people have already know about that. So I decided to launch it under my own names, being personal. I named it Rasei Fort Koloynia.
Right.
So
And it wasn't a limited edition, right, when it was first launched?
Well, when it was first launched, I knew eventually I would run out because it was just one big batch that I had made. But to be honest with you, I didn't expect the outcome and the success of Koloynia. I sort of just thought, hey guys, try this, what do you think? And then, Luca Turin gave it a 5-star rating on his perfume guide on his blog online. So then that started a little bit of hype and people started to talk about it. And then before you know it, I was sold out of all the big batch that I made. And Koloynia was one that I never wrote down the formula. So I remember once being in an exhibition and one Polish friend, I've forgotten his name now, he said to me, can you make Koloynia again? I said, no. He said, why not? It sells really well, right? I'm like, yeah, it does. He said, why don't you make it? I said, I never wrote down the formula, so I don't know how to make it.
And may I ask, how long did it take from you to create Koloynia from scratch to finish?
I would say it took about a year and a half. I was just continually working on the same formula. So it was put a new material in, like a natural, say Neroli or Bergamot, and then Orris and certain materials that I'd put into the formula, and it was developing over time. So I never really took it too serious, but I wanted it to go towards the direction of what I remember of my grandfather. So from that, it sort of became this really intense and strong, like perfume oil, and it had some alcohol in it too. But you could say it was like an X-ray. So eventually, when I thought that it was right, I added the alcohol, and so I had at the time I think around 25 or 30 liters of this perfume, Koloynia.
It's a lot. Right?
It's a lot, right? So, and then I bottled them in those little green splash-on colognes, and had the rosewood box. So that was that. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm sold out of Koloynia now. Let's try something else. So whilst I'm running the Fort in Manlé, I'm like, oh, let's try another perfume. And then along came La Whatever. I think that was next. Or actually,
it was exclusive for a market.
Cielito Lindo, which is a Mexican song about some love story.
Yeah.
That was an exclusive one to Mexican market. Yes, it was in Saks Fifth Avenue in Mexico. So they asked me to make a exclusive to Saks in Mexico. So I went to Mexico and launched Cielito Lindo. That was also a limited edition, and that was a sort of fun project.
It was short, right? Because
it was short.
It got sold out.
And it was less than Koloynia as well. So it was like not a lot of bottles made, and that also came in a cylinder, wooden cylinder tube. That was 100 ml parfum. Okay, so so the Rasei Fort became almost like a house of limited editions. So whenever I felt like creating something with some materials that I attained or wanted to experiment with, I sort of was blending them and releasing them. But the issue was, a lot of my friends were saying, like, it doesn't seem like a good strategy because all of your bottles and aesthetics are different. Right. So perhaps you should think about turning the Rasei Fort into a brand.
To me, I felt like it's more, if you ask me, I think it's more, it's less commercial in that way. Because every time you look for a new bottle and a cap, it takes time and energy to source the cap and to think of the concept or the shape of the bottle.
Yeah, that's true. So there had to come a point where I either gave up on the whole idea of the Rasei Fort, like, you know, and move on and focus on the Fort and Manlé brand, or I was going to, you know, not let go of the sort of, you could say, the success that it's had and turn it into a brand of its own, like an independent brand. So I decided to turn it into its own brand, where I can continue with sort of perfumes that are quite unique and different, unconventional, you can say. Okay. And so that's the story of basically how it came about.
Since you mentioned Fort and Manlé as the other brand, so let's say if Fort and Manlé and Rasei Fort are two of your sons, what do you think their characteristics will be?
Okay, their characteristics. I would say Fort and Manlé would be eccentric, and old soul. It's not like me, you know. I like things that are vintage, old. I'm into that sort of. That's why I went for that old world regal sort of look. A lot of people say that the bottles of Fort and Manlé look like whiskey bottles or something like that, like liquor. The actual labels were inspired by the cigar wrappers.
Okay. So my next question for you would be, which one of the creation would you consider as the founding rock of Rasei Fort, and why?
I would say Lost in Translation is really meaningful to me, because I have a very special connection to oranges and mandarins and grapefruits and lemons, because I'm from Cyprus.
Right. You're born and raised in Cyprus?
Born in Cyprus, not raised. I was raised in Australia. We left Cyprus when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
But my father has an orchard that stretches around 9 acres, and he has oranges and mandarins and lemons and grapefruits. So every time we go to Cyprus, I used to go in there and pick the fresh oranges and lemons and stuff. So, and it's close to like a lot of cafeterias and stuff. So, yeah, so I used a lot of those citrus notes in the top and blended it with some sweet tea notes, right? Because the Turks, we drink a lot of tea, right? Sweet tea. And yeah, so I would say Lost in Translation, and I selected that mainly because of the notes, but actually Lost in Translation, Rose Automobile and Reina del Mar were made at the same time. So just to release the house as a set of 3.
Right. When you first launched the Reina del Mar, I thought it's going to smell exactly the same as Maduro, because the inspiration comes from the sheep, right?
Yeah. Do you find it smells like Maduro?
No, but it's completely different. That's why I think you're not using your old formulas on other perfumes.
No, I try not to do that. Like
even though the name is like, it reminds me of the Maduro.
Maduro, yeah.
For the other brand.
The difference is so Reina del Mar is more. I wanted to get the scent of like wet wood. So,
wet wood.
Yeah, so wood that's been washed out in sea. So a little bit salty, a little bit, because it's a shipwreck, you could say. Like, no one's actually pulled out the Reina del Mar. It's supposed to be under the bottom of the sea. But so my thought process for creating the perfume was that imagine what it was carrying, the citrus fruits, the tobacco, the cigars and all that. If it was to be underwater in the middle of the ocean, and with that wet wood, the moss and the seaweed, how would that all smell? So it's a bit of a mix of many materials to create this sort of a sea breezy, seaweedy, wet wood note. So yeah.
What about the Sons of a Mint?
Son of a Mint.
The name is kind of catchy.
Yeah, so Son of a Mint is not. It's not supposed to be a mint fragrance. It's supposed to be lavender because lavender is actually from the mint family.
Right.
And so when I found out lavender's from the mint family, I'm like, okay, so perhaps this fragrance that we've been working on.
You found out a long time ago, or you just found out?
I found out recently. So because I made a fragrance that contained a lot of lavender, clary sage, mint,
Right.
and then when I looked it up, rosemary, mint, clary sage, and all of these sort of herbs are, including lavender, they're all from the mint family.
Right.
So I'm like, son of a mint. So I looked at lavender to be like his father's mint.
Right.
I don't know why, but that was basically the inspiration.
So you sold part of your company, and would you say that you're still in charge of all the creative process of all the fragrances in Rasei Fort?
Definitely, yes.
Because that's what a lot of people are wondering.
Actually, I won't answer these questions. I'd like to say no comment, no, I'm kidding. I did sell part of Rasei Fort to a friend who is in charge of, because I needed someone who would be professional in operating and running a perfume business.
Right.
And so a friend of mine, Yasin, he has his own brand of his own. And so he offered to help me out with the Rasei Fort brand and to bring it to a place where it would be recognized just like Fort and Manlé has been recognized as a brand of its own. So he does all the operations for the brand, so admin stuff, emailing and whatever. And I'm basically just the perfumer and the creative side of the brand.
I think it makes sense because when you're creating so many fragrances, you want to be focused on what you're good at.
Yeah,
and just to do it all.
That is not my strong suit, to be honest. I'm not really good at operating in that way. I'm more of a creative craft sort of person. Like I did really well in arts at school, but I didn't do so good in other areas such as maths and all that. So I needed someone who would like carry the load of the brand.
Right.
And you know, at the same time, nothing else with the perfumes has changed, apart from just trying to be more organized and keep things consistent and all that. So yeah, it's been good that, you know, it's been operated by the both of us now.
And can you share more of your plans for this year?
Sure, yeah, I would love to. So the plans this year, we have the latest one is Son of a Mint, as you know. We had Russian cologne, which was quite successful. We sold that in the first month.
Wow.
300 bottles. The 200 ml eau de parfum. So it's inspired by vintage sort of Russian cologne.
Oh, by the way, speaking of 200 mils, why is it 210 not 220?
Okay, so the bottle itself is actually 220 ml. But what happened was when we tried to fill it to 220, sometimes it wouldn't fill up all the way, it would stop. So we'd get like 218 or 200. So we prefer to give more than to give less. So we just put 210 just to be safe, but we tried to fill it up to 220.
And can you share more of your plans for this year?
2025. Yes. So in March, we're planning to release a new fragrance for the line. It's called the Milky Bar Kid. And it's here right now. So won't tell you much about what it is. You'll have to come and smell it over at Centre
In
Niche.
his studio.
Nice. Yeah, or come to Dubai.
Only if you get invited.
Yeah, this is Milky Bar Kid, and I won't tell you the notes, but so these lids they have bullet holes in them, and
Can you share more how you did it?
with a drill.
With a drill. And it's going to be like
not with a gun.
It's going to be a special edition for us.
Special edition. It has a little cowboy hat and some bullet holes on the side, so it's based around a white chocolate cowboy kid. And there's only 100 bottles that will be exclusive to my dear guest here, Patrick, and Centre Niche.
Centre Niche Boutique.
Centre Niche Boutique. So the rest will be, the cowboy hat will be removed, and there will be no more holes drilled into the cap.
I actually quite like that. Do you mind if I keep that bottle?
Sure, that's not the perfume though, but you can keep it.
Yeah, I probably say it's here, right?
No, it's yours. Yeah?
But you said it's not the same fragrance.
It's not. But you can have it. You can have a prototype. It's valued more. Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for your
So
time.
much, man. I'll have to go. I've got to blend some fragrances.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for your time. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.